Hello, my name is DC. I am the host of The Full Circle, a podcast where we link songs together with the last song, linking back to the first song, hence completing the full circle. This is a very special edition because I am very, very pleased to announce that I am participating in the 4th edition of Podcasthon. For 1 week, thousands of podcasts will highlight a charity of their choice. And today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Jeordie Shenton from the incredible charity Tonic Music. Their aim is to establish good mental health within music communities. They were founded in 2012 upon the belief that participation in music is good for mental health. They were originally based in Portsmouth and now they operate all across the UK. They provide work for the music industry, for people who professionally engage in music. They provide support for music fans, people who recreationally engage in music. And they also provide support for music youth, organisations engaging young adults in music. They offer 4 types of mental health support: therapeutic sessions, peer groups, preventative workshops, and training courses. It's an absolute honour to have them on the show, and it's an absolute honour to participate in Podcasthon. Head over to tonicmusic.co.uk if you want to find out more about Tonic Music and give in a donation. And head over to podcasthon.org to check out all the episodes and all the associated charities that each show has. So without further ado, let's hear the interview with Jeordie Shenton of Tonic Music. The Full Circle. With DC. I have a very special guest on The Full Circle today. He is the programme's lead for the charity Tonic Music, a charity who supports mental health for music industry professionals and music fans, and he designs training courses, support groups and talk workshops. He has a huge passion in mental health for music and is an academic researcher looking into substance use among musicians. A top guy and an absolute honour to have him on the show. His name is Jeordie Shenton. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, Jeordie.
Thank you so much for inviting us. Amazing. I love the intro as well. Real honoured. That's great.
Pleasure. No, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. And I'm super excited to hear about your work for, your work for Tonic Music and the work you do for musicians and for music fans. And I guess what I want to do, I want to hear a bit about you and a bit about your role. And what I also want to hear is, I know you've spoken to people in the past and speaking in podcasts. I want to hear a fun fact about yourself, whether it's related to Tonic Music or not, that you've never shared with anyone else.
Oh, I've never shared with anyone else. I'm going to start with the fun fact on myself that I probably have told everyone. So people won't laugh because if they've heard me talk about it, they go, oh, he always mentions this. Anyway, so I found out randomly one day that my childhood home, that I grew up in the same childhood home as the musician Brian Eno from Roxy Music. Really randomly, this French biographer who's writing a book told me on my doorstep as I was in my pajamas while writing my PhD. So there we go. That's kind of my segue. A fun fact I've never told anyone.
That you're willing to share, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course. This. Wow. Okay. A fun fact that I have to be really careful. So I have to keep it. I have to keep because I'm cool and and unique and mysterious. Fun fact. Okay. I'm going to share the fun fact we spoke about just before we started. So that's a good point. I don't think I've ever told anyone, not really publicly. So I am in my early 30s. I didn't have a smartphone until I was in my mid 20s. So about sort of 10 years ago, when everyone else had a smartphone, I still had a flip up sort of Nokia. I couldn't work out. I was still in sort of, back in the 90s really. So yeah, I discovered very late on in my final year at uni, based on my uni telling me to get a smartphone because they couldn't get hold of me, and I discovered the wonders of having the internet while on the bus. So I guess that's what, I don't think I've really ever told anyone that, because it was just one of them things where it's like, oh, just sort of, join the game. Is that a fun fact? I don't know, but very strange fact. And then you can't, very, very, very odd. I mean, I would have been the sort of, this guy in his 20s still having like the portable CD players. You know what I mean? There you go.
It's a unique fact for sure, because I'm sure even when you were at school, surely you must have been one of the few that didn't have a smartphone.
I probably was, but I don't think I really noticed. I tell you what I did have though. I did have an iPod. So for me, it was all about the music playing. So me, it was all about going on at the time it's iTunes. People bought songs on. So I had the original. I had a really, really basic MP3 player from like Boots. Then I moved on to the kind of, was it the Nano iPod? That had like 2 gig. And then I went up into the world where my nan gave me a little gift, and I was able to buy myself one of the iPod Classics, like the 160 gigabyte one. I mean, my God. So for me, it was all about the music player rather than the phone. So yeah, I think that's what happened is I pumped the kind of focus into how can I play music and walk around, listen to some amazing music, such as Linkin Park, with your t-shirts. Yeah, rather than, I don't know, just whatever people do on a mobile phone. Who knows?
That's fair. I didn't get a smartphone till I was pretty late on, not as late as you. I was about 19, and I used to have a phone which wasn't very good, and it was back in the day. I don't even know if people would have even had a phone that had they would even know what this is. Infrared, even before Bluetooth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Bluetooth. So this is like the precursor to Bluetooth. So Bluetooth's really fast. And what I had to do is I could only put like 3 or 4 songs on my phone, and I had to put it on my laptop, which was one of the few laptops that had this infrared sensor. And you had to touch it, essentially, like, you know, this is my phone and this is the webcam. It had to be like that, and then you could transfer a song, and one song, which was like a 3-minute song, would be like half an hour to transfer.
No one's putting any of them Genesis 20-minute long songs on there, are they? That's not happening. Oh my goodness.
No. And I mean, like, nowadays, it's so easy for people to get music through Spotify or any other streaming platform. You know, they don't realize how hard it was back in the day to, you know, buy a CD, put it on your computer, and then get a file. If you want to get it on your MP3 player or whatever, you had to transfer it. And yeah, infrared, those were the days.
I still sort of do that though. I still have an external hard drive that's got all my CD uploads, and I'll still for Christmas. So, you know, bless my mum. She's like, what albums do you want for Christmas this year, right? And I still get my albums, and I'll still sit there and I'll upload them. It's a lot quicker now, but it used to take a long time. And I'll still upload them, and it goes on to iTunes. And then you put the album cover on, you make sure it's all nice and tidy, and then I'll upload it onto the iPod. I still do that. There's something, for me, I think it's really important to highlight the ownership of CDs or tapes or records. It's really nice for people to have a collection of music rather than just sort of on the smartphone. I think that's my version of, like, you know, that vinyl enthusiast. I think for me, I'm a CD and iPod enthusiast. For me, that's kind of sort of my process I need to do.
Nice. I've joined the vinyl hype. I do just like, and it's just the sound quality on the vinyl when you've got the decent speakers as well. It's just incredible. Like, so much better than hearing it on streaming. Although Spotify, I think, recently added lossless, so I don't know. Maybe that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big question about streaming services, isn't it? As always, big impact on the negative experiences of musicians in particular. Lot of challenges we face.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to it both. I think without those sorts of stuff, maybe musicians may not have been found, if that makes sense. Like,
it's a good point, isn't it? It's a very good point, because it's a lot easier to find music now, particularly for like young people. So young people now just love all music, don't they? Different eras, different genres, because it's just, they don't have to commit to buying something. So the risk of listening to the music is like zero. And it's a lot easier. So if you see a great sort of support act, or if you see something like a festival, a local act, they're bound to be on these streaming services. I think what we must always do then is follow up, purchase the physical, purchase some merch as well. Like I said, pros and cons. It'd be interesting to see what happens now with AI. I think that's the real big challenge now for the world of music.
Definitely. And you're seeing more and more of that. I really hope they crack down on that, because yeah, but some people like people can't tell the difference. Some people can't tell the difference between AI and non-AI, and it's a bit concerning, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I would say the same for my colleagues. For us, it's that kind of connection to the artist, and that someone's created this, a team of people. You know, people worry about large songwriting teams and production teams. I can understand using AI by a musician in their music, maybe, and I've heard arguments for it. The next step that people will naturally do, that's probably been happening for a couple of years, to be honest. I think when you get pure AI music, it's a bit worrying, really. I think there'll always be true music lovers who love the music for the person, the emotion, the culture, the identity, and so they won't ever really go to AI music. I think so. Hopefully we'll have that, but it's definitely a daunting thing for a lot of artists at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess I want to talk about your role for supporting artists who may have concerns and may have these challenges. And I guess you work with musicians for their mental health. And I guess I will talk about that in a lot more detail later. But I guess I just want to hear a bit about your role and what Tonic Music do.
So my role at Tonic Music is I'm the programs lead. So I've been at Tonic Music now for nearly 5 years. It'll be 5 years on the 1st of March. So my role is to, as part of a team, so we're an amazing team, really great team, to design, manage and review the mental health programs for people who professionally engage in music. So that's working musicians, singers, producers, DJs, crew and roadies, agents and managers, festival organisers, venue operators. So anyone who earns money from music, regardless how much that is, from say £1 to potentially £1 million. And then the other side, the mental health support for people who recreationally engage in music. So your music fans and your hobbyist musicians. My role is to kind of sort of work with sort of day-to-day operations and kind of the sort of strategy as part of a team. So it's been an amazing dream job. I mean, imagine that you provide mental health support to both the sort of producers and consumers of music. Amazing. Love it. Fairly small national charity. I say fairly small. We are growing, actually. So a fascinating job. If I could have written my dream job at school, I think that would have been it. I mean, as you mentioned earlier about I'm doing a PhD in substance use amongst working musicians, and that's great. I love doing the research, and this research fascinates me. So I kind of pivoted because I originally worked in kind of health and social care, then went and did a degree. Originally, health and social care related degree, but then changed to psychology and sociology. So then was going down the academic route, and just randomly met Tonic 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I think now, when I think about it, I like to try and think of the timing. I feel it was the end of 2020, because I think it was. I'm pretty certain when I met Steph, the founder and CEO of Tonic Music, the original email exchange was in December 2020. I think it was near Christmas. But if you could, like I said, in school, that would have been my dream job, because it brings together my absolute passion for music, my sort of dedication towards mental health, and kind of my interest around psychology and sociology, health and social care, those aspects. So yeah, I feel very privileged that I had that bit of luck. You always need a bit of, you always need effort and always need to work towards your goals. But you do need sometimes that sprinkle of luck. And it was just, thankfully, Steph and my paths crossed. So yeah, what a fascinating 5 years it's been. Amazing.
Incredible. And we'll talk about that later. And I think I was very fascinated by it. I think what you do, I think what the charity does, supporting musicians, supporting their mental health. I think for me, as well as a psychiatrist, but also just a massive music fan, it really resonated to me. So I found it's an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And the full circle songs you've chosen are all related to Tonic Music, aren't they?
Yeah, I relate a little bit of the Tonic Music story in 5 songs to some extent. And there's circles within circles almost. There's a kind of, I feel the first song choice is maybe a bit more of a center point, but it's kind of circles within circles and kind of comes back nicely. So it's really enjoyable to do. Yeah, some real fascinating connections and stories there.
Amazing. So I'll put a playlist on it, as I do for every show. So what I want to do is I want to talk about the first song. What's the first song you've chosen for the full circle?
Yeah, so the first song, which I think is probably the most important song, the one that connects, it makes the real big connection, is the Specials and the song Gangsters. So really important that we choose the Specials, and in particular the song Gangsters was really important in that choice.
Nice. The Specials, Gangsters, the first song on the full circle. And what makes the Specials really important in Tonic Music?
Our founding patron at Tonic Music is and was Terry Hall, the songwriter, vocalist of the Specials. Unfortunately, Terry passed away 3 years ago, I think it was now. But he was founding patron from more or less the very start of Tonic Music. Tonic Music was founded in 2012 and originally started as local non-profit. And there was a couple of festivals that Tonic Music ran. So Tonic, and then original title Tonic 2. And Tonic 2, Terry Hall headlined with a DJ set. And from that point forward, Terry became a patron, and we did an amazing amount of work with the specials. And Terry, we used to go on tour with the specials, providing our Tonic Music stand. Great support, just an amazing support to the charity. Really, really special guy. He also, the specials helped fund some of our programs as well when we were doing more music workshop based work. Particularly, we used to have a ska choir. Anytime any sort of musician, anyone is mentioned with Tonic Music, the first person that comes to mind is Terry Hall, and not just Terry. The specials, Linville Golding is one of our ambassadors still. We're very close to many of the members and the whole crew of the specials, but Terry being our founding patron is really, really important. And there's a particular reason why Gangsters was picked as well.
Okay, do you want to share that now?
Yeah, so this was interesting. Because I kind of did it as picking the artist first before the songs. And I had a feeling there was this connection, but I wasn't 100% sure. So the third song I picked, the artist that does that song did a cover of Gangsters at the time we first met them. So I'll reveal that a little bit later. And also the second song, the artist of the second song, they also do a cover of Gangsters regularly at festivals and gigs. And actually there's a studio version as well. So the second artist, and I'll mention a song in a second I've picked, is the Dub Pistols. Again, patrons and ambassadors of ours. So Barry Ashworth, front person, is one of our patrons. Shawnee T, one of our ambassadors. So we have a very close connection to Dub Pistols. Again, performed at Tonic 2. So the story also revolved around the same time. What was amazing is Barry in particular, very much, Terry Hall was a great influence on him. And then they become good friends as well. So there's that really lovely kind of almost family aspect with all of these connections. So Dub Pistols, and I've chosen, there's obviously the Gangsters cover, but I've chosen the song Cyclone for that. And the reason being is because Barry runs a fundraiser for us called Barry's Flying Circus. So this is where people raise money for Tonic Music by doing a wing walk. So a wing walk is when people stand on top of a plane while it's doing loop-the-loops and barrel rolls and all of that aspect. I have no idea why you do that, but it's great that people do. I was raising money for us, but for me, I'd be like, rather have my feet on the ground. Barry does that. So every year he'll do that for us with his friends and with different fundraisers. And the song Cyclone was used in a promo video that we did for Barry Flying Circus. So it makes you really think about Tonic Music when that song's played as well.
Nice. Great song choice. Dub Pistol, Cyclone, the second song on the full circle. And I just want to add about the specials. It has a special place in my heart, pardon the pun, because of the two-tone, but also they're from Coventry, my hometown. So yeah,
Coventry's going to be mentioned quite a lot in this, I realise as well, actually. And this is the thing, Coventry, I love Coventry. Personally, I first went to Coventry to do some work with Tonic. I love the Two-Tone Museum. I love the sort of the HMV Empire venue. And they're really good friends of Tonic as well. And it's an amazing city. So interestingly, because of the Terry Hall connection, Coventry is going to sort of be really weaved into this discussion. Amazing city and real good kind of has a special place in our hearts at Tonic Music. Tonic Music was originally found in Portsmouth, but also Coventry has a special place as well.
Amazing. No, looking forward to hearing about the connections with Coventry moving forward. Right, shall we do some Would You Rather?
Yes, would you rather? I like this.
Hopefully they're not straightforward and hopefully they're answerable. I asked one recently where they said it was a non-answerable question.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Controversial. Stuart's inquiry there, isn't it? Like, oh, wow.
It was to a musician and I asked them, would you rather get rid of all your music forever or stop making music? And they just couldn't answer it.
Cool, wow. That's quite a conundrum, isn't it? Yeah. Now I'm intrigued what you're going to ask me.
Probably not at that level because I've learnt my lesson. But would you rather only talk about mental health? So you can only talk about mental health, or only talk about music?
Ooh. I feel like I'm in my work role and I should say the mental health one. Goodness. I would have to pick the only talk about mental health. And I know some people might think I'm lying, but I feel, that is one of these cool questions. That is quite difficult to answer. So I will go for the mental health because I feel it's a real honour to be working in mental health. And I feel my life, as much as it would be very much empty without music, and my whole life revolves around music, but it would feel very unfulfilled without being able to support people's mental health. So the music would have to be sacrificed. Wow.
That is tough, and that is I would struggle to answer that question as well. And I don't know, I feel like you're a better man than I. I genuinely don't know if I can stop me listening to music, talking about music, or I don't know. No. I can't see me working for like a mental health charity, and I'm not knocking charities to do this, but like, I don't know, where it's like Tonic pottery or something. I probably would struggle. It'd have to be a bit more general. I hope people do pottery don't sort of complain why I just said that, but it would be very strange working in mental health without the music aspect. But I think, that's kind of, I am sure my colleagues are going to go, you're not telling the truth with that. But I actually, do you know what? It's as much as it was kind of the, I don't know, picking your favourite. I don't know, say you got twin sisters and you have to pick one that's your favourite. Like, how do you decide? I don't, by the way. I feel it's important to kind of be more fulfilled in life. Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that's a fair way of looking at it. I mean, at the end of the day, the mental health element is my job, so I guess that is the more important part, whereas the music is my hobby. So it's basically choosing your job, which is your hobby, but in your case, you intertwine both of them in your job.
Yeah. And very much so, and always have, because both the research side and the kind of the applied side with Tonic music. And actually, even when I was in school and I was doing sociology coursework, I'd always do it about music and subcultures. I just naturally, everything I ever did kind of had a music element to it, which is really, really, really interesting. So I would be fulfilled, but I'd probably be really bored because nothing interests me more than music. I've got other interests, but there's something about music that's universal. It's not seasonal, so you don't have to think, there's an off season. It's accessible now in terms of, we're just talking about streaming services, for example, and just being able to upload CDs. You've got the diversity of music, the different eras and different genres, the different levels as well of, the greatest album in the world doesn't have to be your stadium touring artist. For you, it could be a pub circuit artist or someone playing the grassroots. And for me, that is true, that there's certain albums and songs that I just think are the greatest in the world. But that's my opinion. So this is something fascinating about music, and you see that within the work of Tonic music, that our participants, whether on the professional side or recreational side, it does trigger some really fascinating conversations, very much so. A lot more than, say, football. And I like football, but there comes a limit.
Okay, this is the last one. Semi of a big / serious one. Would you rather every big major musician publicly talks about their mental health or the mental health scene, or the entire industry, the entire music industry behind the scenes commit to fixing the structural issues?
So the first option, I think it'd be really interesting if all sort of major musicians talked about mental health in some aspect, not necessarily their own mental health, because I never think anyone should have to. But then at the same time, we don't want people to again kind of think it's being talked about too much that people don't actually forget, and then you kind of have that recurring pattern. The structural problems, that's an interesting one, because I don't think all problems can necessarily be fixed at an industry kind of level. I think we have to accept that there's certain pre-existing conditions that mean people who work in music sometimes can experience poor mental health. The industry might exacerbate it, but it's not always certain intrinsic things to do with the industry. I would say I'm probably leaning towards the second one in terms of how realistic that could be. And it's not that the music industry, in quotation marks, could solve every single thing, but there's certain practices that it would be good if they can address. So for example, when artists are released from record labels, that there's some kind of practice or some kind of procedure in place to help them make sure that they have the support should they need it, that they're not just dropped and that's it. Also as well to ensure that there's mental health support available that's accessible to people on tour, where we're getting there but we're not quite there. So I think, making kind of mental health is a kind of certain thing that kind of has to be ticked, but has to be ticked in the right way, not kind of being ticked to just, we ticked because we just got this person here, but it's done in the right way. I think would be better, simply because it would be more action-based. I think people talking about it is really good, but it tends to be more awareness-based. And we don't want people kind of being like, we've heard this conversation. And actually, I'm noticing that a little bit with some discussions around mental health and music, that people know this discussion now. So what we need to do is, rather than keep having the same mental health and music discussion and it focuses on anxiety, depression, we need to start changing the conversation. And again, our CEO, Steph Langan, is a real advocate for this, is talking about more severe and enduring mental health in music, talking about issues that aren't talked about enough in music around mental health, because the awareness is there, we now need action. And so we need to be able to change that conversation a little bit to give people a different focus, to keep it within the mental health box, but make sure it's not just to kind of the same answer every time, the same outcome. We're starting to move towards that, but we need to do that. We ran a panel at Brighton Music Conference where we actually discussed severe and enduring mental health in music. I believe it was the first time that had really been done, certainly in the UK. So yeah, we need to mix it up. And there's some interesting things as well about when major artists, for whatever word, talk about mental health, that they're then not kind of labelled as the artist that only talks about mental health. I think about like Lewis Capaldi, for example, fantastic comeback. But I hope that should he want to kind of move away from talking about mental health for a little while, that he's able to do that he's not kind of put in this box. We need to think of mental health as affecting everyone, because it does, not just sort of label artists as, because it feels, if we do that, it feels very much sort of the Amy Winehouse in the media days, where it's kind of like labeling a musician for their poor mental health. So we do need to be careful.
That's fair. Yeah. It's an interesting one because, yeah, you're right. I think there is a lot more talk, and as you say, sometimes if we talk, if it's too much talk, I know it's tricky. It's like, you can't talk about this too much, some people might say, but it's like, well, sometimes if it is mentioned again and again, sometimes it can then just be not registered.
Yeah, I think another solution as well is with panels, don't always have just a mental health panel, but have a mental health representative on a different panel. So whether that's like record deals, live performing, publishing, anything, because anything has an emotional impact. So having a mental health representative on these panels, I think it's going to help as well. I think having just a mental health panel is great, but let's sort of bring mental health in a more applied way of these discussions. I think would be really, really intriguing.
Yeah, and I also, again, I don't know if people will like this, but I also don't think people should talk about mental health just for the sake of it as well.
Yeah.
Especially if they don't know anything about it, or it could cause more harm than good. Especially if some artists talk, I just speak about mental health, and then they don't. So I think personally, obviously, I don't know much about the big structural issues behind the scene, but I'm sure. I mean, maybe you might know, maybe you don't. But I think that would be the focus, is actually if we're able to sort of make it easier to support people's mental health or musicians' mental health behind the scenes, and at least try and make it easier, even if it doesn't fix the mental health issues directly, even if they can just make things easier for them. I don't know what that would be, whether like the gig times or the touring schedule, for instance. I don't know, things like that. I don't know, like that might play a part.
It's very much one of them puzzles. I don't know what they're called. The puzzles where you've got to move the pieces around, and it's got one blank square, and you've got to kind of move all the squares about, and it's really difficult getting kind of traffic jams. With a lot of things, it's so like gig timings. Well, people's recreational time is either a weekday night or the weekend. So we're starting to see a lot more matinee gigs. So that's an example. But you have that's tricky. You have kind of, negative feedback. So again, that can be tricky, because if you have someone who's doing a critical review of an album, there's a way that they can give sort of a negative feedback, but it's always going to be, if you get a 2-star album for you, it's still going to hurt, no matter how that's positioned. When artists are dropped because of low record sales, you can understand, record labels are companies, so you can't say you have to keep artists on, but it's a kind of, the post-dropping process is maybe something to look at. So music as a career, it has got these funny caveats that's why we have that preventative approach with the young people we work with about the pitfalls. But at the same time, there are these structural things that do need changing, particularly with younger artists, because, when you've got a younger artist that's signed at 18, releases album, dropped at 20, it's not good. And we know a lot of artists, and, beyond that, crew as well, that have died related to their mental health tend to be younger. Not always, but they do. So we know that there's this relationship. I kind of see it as a cultural change rather than necessarily policy-based stuff. There's policy-based stuff you can do, but it's a cultural change about being a lot more kinder and fairer to people. But it's so entwined with capitalism and that kind of business approach, because it is, unfortunately. So that's why we're here. We would love if Tonic Music didn't have to exist, but we do have to exist, and we probably always will have to exist, because there's not really going to be a place where everyone in working music is in good mental health. There's always going to be these new challenges. I mean, thinking of the last couple of years, you've got the closure of live music venues. You've got the effects of streaming, so musicians not getting income. You've got the impact of Brexit on touring. Whether you voted Brexit or not, it doesn't matter. It has had an effect on touring, both artists coming to the UK and artists leaving the UK to tour. Then you've also got as well the new big one that tends to be AI. So you've got all these unique issues that are happening that you don't see with other industries. Like, there isn't really, correct me if I'm wrong, I'll ask my best friend who's an electrician, there's no kind of thing where electricians aren't making money, where electricians aren't getting the social recognition as being an electrician, where they're receiving negative feedback. I mean, I might get a poor Google review, but there's still always work. Whereas being a musician in particular, it just comes with the nature of working in the arts. So culturally, we need to change that. The other thing that needs to change is kind of the levels of abuse within music. That's one of the things that absolutely structurally needs a change across the board. That's going to be a big impact. You start working towards that, this sort of rate of poor mental health will reduce, not fully to the bottom, but it will start to reduce.
Yeah, no, you summed it up really well. There's a lot of things there that needs to be addressed and thought about, and I really hope in the years to come it can be looked into, it can be addressed and fixed to an extent. I don't think some of these will be. I think unfortunately streaming services are probably here to stay, and they probably, but the AI is the big one, I think,
it's
for sure.
The big tidal wave. I kind of explain it as like you kind of, it's almost like you're playing like a fighting game on the old PS1. So I don't know, Street Fighter or Tekken, whatever you like. You go up at each level, so each new opponent's harder. And it's almost like, all right, we've just beat the big boss, and then suddenly there's a kind of secret final boss, and it's AI, where suddenly it's like this boss is like 10 times harder to beat, and it's like, oh no. And it is kind of what that must feel like for musicians, that venues were closing down, but there was a lot of work, particularly Music Venue Trust, in helping venues. Streaming, there was a big streaming campaign, kind of navigating that, still not quite perfectly, the touring aspect, and then AI comes along and really just causes, like, theoretically, where's the endpoint with that? So hopefully that's something that can be legislated, you would hope.
Okay, how does Dub Pistol's Cyclone link to the third song on the Full Circle?
Yeah, so interestingly, it's a slight cheat code one, this one. So, as mentioned, Terry Hall, founding patron, did years of work with us. Barry Ashworth in particular as well, patron with Dub Pistols, obviously ambassadors as well, Limber Golding Specials, Shawnee T from Dub Pistols, original supporters of Tonic Music. Slightly cheating because it's the artist that connects here slightly, as opposed, and it's more of a connection to the first song. So as we become a national charity, so now you talk about 2021, it's around the time I joined as well, COVID, pandemic, the lockdown lifted. So the first major music event we did was the Coventry Home Sessions, a City of Culture year for Coventry, wasn't it? So Terry Hall hosted or programmed a series of music events in the cathedral, and he invited Tonic Music to come along to provide mental health lounge, where we were raising awareness of our work. It was my first event with Tonic Music, so it's very memorable for me. Terry played a solo set. One of the artists that was playing that weekend was the Libertines. Now, the Libertines, I think they closed the weekend, if I remember rightly. The Libertines at that set also played Gangsters, with Terry Hall coming to join them to perform that. So it's interesting, again, Dub Pistols play Gangsters quite a lot. The Libertines play Gangsters, which was amazing. And that's when we met the Libertines. And since that point forward, the Libertines themselves have been enormous supporters of Tonic Music. So for the past 4 years, they've asked us to come on tour with them, provide a Tonic Music stand. They even did a fundraising gig for us in Liverpool as well. So the song I picked, again, because I could go, oh yeah, Libertines and a cover of Gangsters I did, but I will pick the song Don't Look Back Into the Sun. The reason, and that was hard because, you know, Time for Heroes, there's a few different options, but the reason being is, for me, they tend to not finish sets. They tend to be the penultimate song in a lot of their sets, whereas the last song seems to change. So it just makes you think about kind of that sort of closing, and it really makes you think back to the Coventry home sessions, hearing that song. It is a circle, but it's more of there's a bit like a family tree. So you have Terry Hall, and then you have Barry Ashworth, and then another offshoot was Peter Doherty and the Libertines. So you kind of got these artists that are very much influenced by Terry Hall, and it was Terry that introduced us to the Libertines as well. So you kind of got to, technically, the second song doesn't necessarily link to the third song, but I would say, you know, they got the connection with playing Gangsters, which is interesting that they chose the same song. That's what I found really interesting, because I had to think back. I actually, tell you, I looked at setlist.com or whatever it's called. I had to check because I was like, I'm sure it's Gangsters Libertines did. And I was like, I know Dubs have done at least one or maybe more special songs. And again, Gangsters come up. And I was like, that's really fascinating. So it's, nice, good connection there.
The Libertines, Don't Look Back Into the Sun, the third song on the Full Circle. Really solid song choice. Right, I want to hear about some favourites. So what's your favourite part working for Tonic Music?
I think if I had to choose one thing to do, it's doing the workshops for young people. So like I said, the universities, colleges, youth projects. As I mentioned, you learn so much. There's something really amazing about it. And the passion of these particularly young, they tend to be musicians, these young musicians talking about music and the fascinating topics. I do really enjoy that. And we got to do this year at the University of Huddersfield with another musician who's a great friend of Tonic, so Loz from Ride. We got to do also at the Royal Northern College of Music, the very first Tonic Music lectures. So these were actually part of the modules, the music modules that these students were doing. And it was a mental health in music lecture. And that was amazing. I know other universities are already doing work around this. I am aware of that. But it was a great honour to me to do that. That was really amazing, and kind of have it as kind of connecting the academic research with the practice. That was really, really cool. I very much enjoyed that. Yeah.
Nice. And from a personal favourite of yours, what's your favourite gig that you've been to?
Oh yeah, so there's always one that comes straight to mind. I actually went with my mum, because actually my friend pulled out, and so me and my mum went, and it was really funny. I'm a massive 21 Pilots fan.
Nice.
I love 21 Pilots. And actually this gig was so amazing, I've kind of made a choice that I'll never go and see him again, which is really strange. So it was I think it was a Bandito tour. So it was about 2019 at Wembley Arena. And it was such a funny gig because my mum was really into like modern music, and I was like, oh, my friends pulled out, did want to come. And she wore like a yellow scarf and there was something else weird, she wore yellow. Anyway, and that was the theme for 21 Pilots on that album, is yellow. But my mum didn't know, so she really fitted in, really strange. And it was just from start to finish, that show was just like, they'd been one of my favourite bands for a long time, and just seeing that and the production, just phenomenal. For me, that would always be the gig that's going to be extremely difficult to top. And I've seen some absolute phenomenal gigs. I don't feel I've ever really been to a bad gig. I'm very privileged. But for me, that is always the one where it's like, I always kind of think, will it ever top? Will it ever top? And I don't think anything necessarily have. It was just everything was just right. Everything connected very well. So yeah, I think that's a good shout out. I'm trying to think as well, like if there was any others that were, I mean, I think as well, I feel, because I'm saying that was an arena show, so obviously it's a big budget. I think it's important to kind of highlight smaller budget shows. So I'm gonna use just one more example. It was actually a festival set, and it was this year at Brighton the Corners in Ipswich, multi-venue, and it was a band from Colchester called Monster Florence. Just when you see a band, and they're from down the road from where I live, stunning start to finish. And they played Brighton the Corners. They also did Latitude Festival and watched that again, stunning start to finish, just like, wow, brilliant. And that, to me, that shows you don't need. Tonic Pilots had millions and millions of pounds to do with the lights and sounds and everything, phenomenal. But you can play, without the kind of millions of pounds put in, and it can be absolutely great. And also, just another mention as well, there was a folk artist from an area called Ellie Tree, and she performed at a conference I attended with Tonic. It was like the East Anglian Festival Network conference. So I didn't even know they had performances, and I watched her play her folk songs. My goodness me, bearing in mind it was a conference, so it wasn't like the base sort of artist performing friendly environment, because it was a conference with exhibition sales. But again, I was so amazed that I asked if I could buy her albums, and she had them for sale. Again, so it's really amazing to see these pockets of music in these amazing places, and just, yeah, brilliant.
Nice, all great choices. I absolutely love 21 Pilots as well. I loved them for a very long time, but didn't see them live until literally last year. Saw them at the Electric Ballroom. Did an intimate show at the Electric Ballroom, which was in London, which was incredible. And then we saw them at the O2 Arena this year, and they were epic. We have got tickets for All Points East next year for them, because we just love them. We just think they're so good live. I mean, yeah, their show, like you described, it's just an absolute spectacle.
There's the one when they come up. So Tyler come up in the car that was on fire, and you're just like, oh, this is going to be amazing. You just know from this point it's going to be phenomenal. You're going to enjoy All Points East. It gets dusty there, but it's going to be that'll be good.
That's what I've heard. I've never been to All Points East.
I went this year to see the Maccabees. Now one of my favourite bands, love them. And I won tickets to see Haim a couple of years ago, which again, phenomenal. Did get a bit dusty this year, but an amazing event, because you got two big stages and you just walk across, and that's quite nice. I'm very tempted to get tickets for that show. I think it's actually when I'm working, so probably won't be able to go anyway. But again, it's like, what do you do when you see a band? There's a few bands this has happened to me too, though. Ghost was another one where I saw Ghost, and it was such a, well, technically I saw them twice because I had asthma attack in the first one. But when I saw them properly, full properly, a few days later, it's when it was like, I just don't know. It's this weird kind of like, I think that's when you hit like the absolute peak. It's like, well, I don't know if I could top their performance. That was amazing. So do you thought you were in the 21 Pilots because being a Linkin Park fan, like a natural kind of connection?
I think there is.
They're like the offspring of Linkin Park, innit? Do you know what I mean? It's like their children almost. What a band. I feel very, very underrated as well, 21 Pilots, because I feel they're kind of seen as a bit, maybe for like, again, my mum loved them, but I think some people might see them as a bit too poppy.
Yeah.
But I sometimes feel like that with Imagine Dragons, and some people really don't like Imagine Dragons. I love Imagine Dragons. I think they're great. 21 Pilots, I think some have missed a point with them. They're never going to headline Download, but I kind of feel they are part of that family tree. It's a strange thing. I mean, at least they did headline Reading, good for them. But yeah, All Points East, that's going to be a really, really good show. That's going to be really, really good.
The Libertines, Don't Look Back Into the Sun. How does that link to the fourth song on the Full Circle?
So we've got a much more of a natural link now, rather than the kind of crowbar one a little bit that I did before. The Libertines, one of the vocalist songwriters is Peter Doherty. He's also in the band Baby Shambles. But the other connection with Tonic Music, Baby Shambles, is not just there, but actually originally, and still, so the longer connection, is Baby Shambles' drummer, as I mentioned earlier, is Dr. Adam Fychek, who is our lead psychotherapist on the team, done a doctoral thesis on mental health and music. He's been a major part of our work over the past 5 years, particularly the work within people working in music. So from day one, Adam has been involved there, and also runs some of our album clubs for music fans as well. So, and I've chosen the song Dandy Hooligan. So that's their latest song. The reason I chose that is because as we speak, Baby Shambles are on tour. They've invited us on tour, so we've been providing a Tonic music stand at all of their shows, and obviously with that being their new song, they're very much playing that song as part of their set list, and it feels a lot more up to date in terms of kind of, I feel we're moving forward, because a bit of a timeline here, isn't it? Specials, Dub Pistols, Libertines, Baby Shambles, obviously it's the first time they've toured while Adam's worked at Tonic as well. So that's quite nice that it comes there. Really feels quite present, that. It's a really great song as well. And I think being a colleague of Adam's, I should be going to the London show. So it'll be really an honour to see Adam play, because I don't think I've seen Adam play. I mean, I've seen Adam play acoustic sets. I've never seen him play with Baby Shambles, so that'd be really nice as well. And I know a couple of my other colleagues have gone down to see him as well. Phenomenal bands, really good reaction to them doing a tour as well. I think that's been quite nice. Yeah, Dandy Hooligan, which I think is a cracking song, links quite nicely with the Libertines. Again, all these sort of connections that we got, these close friends of Tonic that are phenomenal musicians.
Great stuff. Baby Shambles, Dandy Hooligan, the 4th song on the Full Circle. And that moves us on to very nicely about talking a bit more about Tonic music and just having a chat about it all, because it really does fascinate me. I think what you guys do is exceptional. And you said it started in 2012.
2012, yes.
Wow, it's 13 years now.
Yeah, I think in June. I think we never really know our birthdays. So started as a local non-profit, main emphasis on recovery through music, so using music to help with mental health recovery. Become a registered charity in 2019. 2021 we become a national charity, with it intentionally, but because of COVID we moved our support to online video call format, and actually you can support more people rather than kind of doing in-person stuff. The aim of Tonic music is to establish good mental health within music communities. So by that, we mean people who professionally engage in music, so i.e. working musicians, crew, agents, managers, festival venue staff, and those who recreationally engage in music, so be it music fans, hobbyist musicians. We believe we're the only mental health charity that provides tailored mental health support to both, usually with charities of kind of one or the other, but we feel you can't have one without the other. So that's why we do that. So with the music industry side, for want of a better word, we provide therapy sessions, peer groups, skills workshops, training courses, which we do on the music fan side, but these are focused around things like music performance anxiety, neurodiversity in music. So there's specific issues around working in music. All of our facilitators are mental health practitioners from the world of music. So Adam, Frycheck, Claire Bloxham, who I mentioned, Jade Hughes, people who continue to work in music now. I mean, with Adam, he's on tour right now, as I mentioned. With the music fan program, that's quite an interesting one, because how do you build mental health support for music fans? Well, there is a lack of support for music fans. There's music therapy and there's music workshops, but there isn't really mental health support for if you're a music fan. So we do workshops like gig anxiety workshops, festival survival workshops, music for mental health workshops. And then, as I mentioned, we do mental health album clubs. So it's kind of using music, particularly music listening, as the tool, and also addressing the barriers that people encounter to accessing music due to their mental health. So like reducing down anxieties where we can. So alongside that, we have resources. We provide Tonic music lounges at gigs and festivals across the UK, both backstage and front of house. We provide Need a Tonic posters to music venues across the UK for free. I'm very proud of what we do, and it's an amazing that the founder of Tonic Music is still the CEO. I think that's the strength. It's just been able to build a real community within the team, with the patrons, ambassadors, with participants, and just people that we've supported over the years and see at events. Amazing work, and the key point is that the services are free at the point of access.
Truly incredible, and what a journey it's been. And you mentioned festivals all around the country, supporting whether it's in person or online. And how, if someone did want to access your services, how would they do that?
So on our webpage, we've got tonicmusic.co.uk, where it kind of splits into professional engagement music, recreational engagement music, and so they're technically two separate programs. And then you can click register. It goes to a registration form, And everyone who registers is offered a one-to-one consultation appointment beforehand. So it's kind of a check-in, what sort of services would suit the participant. It gives you someone sort of an hour to have that discussion. And there's no discharge time. So people can access a therapy sessions, a peer groups, skills workshop, training courses as and when they like, which are particularly useful for people working in music because obviously they're on tour, they have studio time. So it's not always so easy to be so kind of routine. You also find us on our socials, so Tonic Music MH. So on all the socials, so Facebook, Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, I think TikTok now as well, which is quite nice. And also as well, there's the option on the website to email us and contact us as well. So really accessible. Like I say, we're at loads of gigs and festivals across the year. So on tour, the Baby Shambles right now. We do a lot of gigs at different venues and work with different promoters. We also sell merch to help raise money for the charity as well. We regularly do Victorious Festival. So that's our main festival that we do, being originally from Portsmouth. For the rock and metal fans out there as well, we do Takedown Festival, which is based in Portsmouth. So we also do that. So we've done that for the last sort of few years as well. And that's interesting with Takedown because they had Sleep Token headline 2-3 years ago. And it's amazing that they went from that to Download Festival headline. It was like, wow, that was really, they called that well. So the people at Takedown, we are Divergent, a good friend of ours. People are starting to know us a bit more now, which is great. It's like that community feel of a local charity, but at a national scale.
Yeah. I know obviously it's not a one size fits all for mental health for people, but if there was one thing that you would say to someone to help with their mental health, what would that one thing be, do you think?
I don't want to be cliche. So I think the main thing is to reach out. And that sounds a little bit cliche, but I think it's that kind of always go to your GP. So if you're experiencing a bit of poor mental health, first call GP. You're never wasting anyone's time because it could be a case of medication, therapy, it could be a case of diagnosis needed, it could be more of a kind of like social prescribing, etc., etc. That's always the first port of call. Beyond that, if it's a case of it doesn't require further NHS support, for anyone involved in music is always to reach out to us. That's why we're here. We don't, the only eligibility criteria that we have is that you either work in music or a music fan. So theoretically, that could be everyone. It's going to be 99% of the people in the UK, isn't it? So that's the first criteria. For the music industry side, there's no economic-based criteria. So we don't say you have to earn so much money from music. So you could earn £1 a year from music. Theoretically, we're still there. And the only criteria we have is that you are 18 years or over, you reside in the UK, and that you're registered with a GP. That's quite important, that final bit. Other than that, the program is there to be used. That's why we're here. That's why we're fortunate that we have a few grants support our programs. That's what it's for. So you're never wasting anyone's time. You sometimes hear people say, "Oh, I don't want to take someone else's space." You never take someone else's space. We are here for music communities.
Nice. So if you are feeling like you need support for your mental health, as mentioned, if initially seek that support for the GP, but also Tonic Music is available. It's a great charity, very supportive. I really would recommend it. tonicmusic.co.uk to get full details of that. Was there anything else about Tonic Music that you think is important that we should touch on?
Yeah, I think it's all important, isn't it? So I think, the amazing thing is, like I said, from therapy sessions or training courses, the mental health support is for everyone. So whether you need the remedial support or the more preventative support or just what I learned, skills to support others, it's there for everyone. Along the spectrum of mental health, so good mental health, poor mental health, that's the key aspect there. So we're really proud of that aspect. And just to sort of, check us out, because there's all different ways people get involved. Fundraisers, if people want to do fundraisers for us, if people want to volunteer with us at events that we do, there's all sorts of ways. So if if you're passionate about music, Tonic Music is a place for you because there's all different routes in. I think that's the real key aspect there. Really good work. And on just final note, on the music industry side of things, we have 2 specialist projects. So we have Futures, which is for 18 to 25-year-olds who work or study in music. And we have Agents and Managers, which, unsurprisingly, based on the title, is for music agents and music managers, specialist mental health support there. yeah, so we're really branching out into more specialist support. We're doing training courses for music venue staff coming up, so free mental health first aid, suicide first aid light, and also for youth project staff, so people who work at music-based youth projects, we're also offering free mental health first aid and suicide first aid light training as well.
Incredible. And I'm looking forward to seeing the journey and seeing the progression of Tonic music and the support for all and music fans and musicians and everyone involved in the music industry. So so thank you so much for that and for just helping so many people who are fans of music or part of the music industry.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Let's finish the full circle then. So how does Baby Shambles, Dandy Hooligan link to the last song on the full circle?
Yes. Again, I'm kind of linking it more to the artist, kind of cheating. So the last artist I picked is the Dirt Road Band. So the Dirt Road Band has Horace Panter from the Specials in the Dirt Road Band, along with Steve and Ted, great supporters of Tonic. The way it connects is a loose connection. Is Adam also does a radio show where he interviews musicians for us. He interviewed Horace, so that's my connection there. But the important thing as well is that it then connects back to the Specials with Horace. The song I've picked is Been So Long, but actually I would encourage people to take a listen to the full album, Righteous, which is fantastic, really fantastic album, certainly on the blues side of things. And again, Horace is continuing that legacy of Terry we regularly do Tonic music stands at Dirt Road Band shows. Really has taken on kind of a lot of the work that Terry did. So it's been really great. And really nice to just kind of have that, a bit of variance in this circle. So it started with kind of two-tone, kind of moving to dub, then kind of indie rock, and then kind of going back a bit with sort of blues. I feel like that's quite a nice circle as well. Really a phenomenal band. Great support. And also what's wonderful is that a lot of Dirt Road Band shows, a lot of special fans go that. One of the amazing things with the Specials is their fans really did love the Specials so much. Really, some diehard fans, really knowledgeable fans, really passionate, and you still get that with Dirt Road Band as well. I love that we've been able to mention a band. Dirt Road Band play on the more sort of grassroots circuit, so we've done gigs with them at social clubs and kind of more like blues clubs sort of thing, and that's amazing because these are kind of music community hubs that we forget about. And I love that Horace mentions that at gigs. He was like, these are the spaces that are important because they're often forgotten about. They're kind of I think I seen an organization using the term sort of seed venues, and they're kind of seed venues. If you think about music venue, you wouldn't necessarily write down a social club, but actually these are some amazing music spaces. I picked that. Also special mention, I'm going to make sort of two special mentions as well, that options that could have gone in the circle. First one is the band Monumental. So they're a young band, 18 years old. They have a song called Love Sick. Now the reason that I could have mentioned them in the circle, also real great supporters of Tonic, and actually being 18, at the very start of their journey. Again, the connection there is that we come across them through links in terms of shows related to the Specials and the Dirt Road Band. So that's a nice connection as well. So that would have been kind of an alternative. But also as well to mention that the amazing patrons, ambassadors, and supporters that we have that are artists. So Amy B. Sting from Oh My God, It's a Church, Millie Manders from Millie Manders and Shut Up. The supporters we have, such as also Andy Bell from Ride, another fantastic ambassador. Ride being great supporters of us, being really key. James Walsh from Star Sailor, great supporter. James Atkin from EMF, great supporter. We've had support fundraisers over the years from Liam Crombie of We Are the Ocean previously, and is now solo artist. Better Joy, another young artist that's been a great supporter of ours. I'm sure I'm going to forget some others as well. Lightning Seas are worth mentioning as there as well. We've been on tour with them. And that's the powerful thing. So it's a 5-song circle, but this really could have been a lot bigger circle. It's a bit like a family tree, and musicians. I know I mention musicians a lot, and there's music fans and there's people working in the music industry, but musicians, we need to look after our music communities. We look after musicians, our music industry, our music fans. Musicians in particular have given so much culturally to the world. I mean, that's the really key point. music links very much with emotion and culture, and therefore identity. You just see how important music is. And, if you think about being a music fan, I tend to, if I think about a country, I think about the artists that come from there. But I think if we're talking about the UK, the amazing artists that have come through. So Beatles, Stones, The Who, The Kinks, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Queen, Adele, for example, really, really important. Kate Bush, Dave, Stormzy, the list could go on. Bowie, David Bowie, another one. How important is that in terms of British culture? And you think about British metal and rock as well. So Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Bring Me Horizon, Sleep Token, they're there now. Phenomenal. But unfortunately the arts always come last in these types of thinking. So we need to culturally, we need to make sure we support our music communities, because we're losing them in terms of physical spaces. That's the thing. Venues are closing down, record shops are closing down. Where do people go? It's harder to get tickets for shows, not just in terms of cost, but in terms of these really long queues. Hopefully the elimination of these bots, or the secondhand sellers can't sell over. Hopefully that's going to help address that. But it's hard. It's not like you can go to HMV now and buy a gig ticket anymore, or Virgin Megastore. So there is a need to support our music communities, because we're unique people. People who love music are unique. There is, we wear our love on a t-shirt. We walk around with band. I walk around with a band t-shirt and a band hoodie. That's my outfit. Yeah, okay, you're a football fan, you might wear a football t-shirt, but it's the same football t-shirt, because you're not going to change your team each time. So with music, there's something really special and unique and so fascinating about it. So yeah, I think that's the key. And it's amazing that, like I said, we lost Terry, massive loss. We really miss Terry, but it's amazing that the legacy continues with Horace. The legacy continues with the Libertines and the Dub Pistols, Baby Shambles, the work of Adam, continues with young bands like Monumental, young artists like Better Joy. What an amazing community to be part of.
Incredible. No, thanks so much for that. And thank you so much for completing the full circle. So it's been an absolute honor, Jeordie, to have you on the show. And I could have, we could keep on talking for hours, but, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Is there any parting words of wisdom before we wrap things up?
Parting words of wisdom is take a visit on our website, tonicmusic.co.uk. There is something there for everyone. Like I said, you never waste anyone's time, and always make sure you're buying physical music and buying merch as well from your artists, both, your stadium headlining to your pub circuit playing, because trust me, some of the best gigs I've ever been to have been at that pub circuit level. You could have 2-3 people in there. So that's the thing. That's how special music is.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why I do this show, and that's why you come on, and that's why you support musicians and you support music fans, and you support and you do what you do. So thank you so much, Jeordie, for being on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Jeordie Shenton for coming on the Full Circle and to highlight Tonic Music as the charity that I have chosen for Podcasthon. It's a very special episode, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Head over to tonicmusic.co.uk for more information about them, and head over to podcasthon.org to discover many other charities through the voices and talents of amazing podcasters. I always end the show in the same way, and this is to do with my Hindu background. You don't have to do it, but if you do it, let me know. Just remember this: stay safe. Don't eat beef.